Okay, Warriors, this is the introduction to our Star Choice unit. In this unit, you will have lots of activities that you can choose from. The whole point of this activity is because this is really vocab based, we want to make sure that you are doing things that will be helpful to you and most useful to you. So the big things that we need to be able to do is answer these questions right here. What are the stages of a star? What causes a star to go from one stage to another? And the biggest deal is what are the roles of mass, gravity, and nuclear fusion in the process? So when you think about it like a story, the roles of mass, gravity, and nuclear fusion are really the theme of that story, and we need to know the theme. So you're going to have lots of activities available. You'll be graded based off of your formative self quizzes. Those have to pass with a B or better in order to mark that activity as complete. So in this packet, you'll find lots of questions. Those are going to be considered your notes. And again, open note assessments, so make sure your notes are good. Some of these activities you'll want to do in a group. So groups of 2 is the maximum. Some of you may prefer working alone, also fine. And some of the stuff can be completed at home. So overall, on the formative grade will be listed based off of the number of activities you get done. So 5 activities will be for an A plus. If you don't do as many, your grade goes down. But again, you can do a lot of these at home. So if you're having trouble getting something done in class, just know that you have the ability to do those ones marked with a star at home. So the main ones to keep in mind that you cannot do at home are these 2. These are the only 2 that can't be done at home, okay? I would say the least valuable activity is this one right here, the graphic organizer. I don't see much learning value in. That could be my personal bias, so just know that. So let's take a look at these activities here real quick. We also have a map of the classroom where to find those. That's just to help your instructor to know what kinds of questions they're going to encounter when you're sitting at those stations. So we do ask you to move based off of what you have going on that day. So you'll notice these 2 tables over here are the nuclear fusion game. So the game boards and all your materials will be set up there. The most important thing for this one is there are video instructions on Google Classroom. You must watch the video instructions because this steely nucleus that's on here, there are some safety issues that go with that. So if you're asking questions that indicate you have not watched those instructions, we're going to make you go back and watch those. The matching game is the other one that doesn't have anything we can do at home. So there are actually 6 sets of these. So a total of, I think 6 or 8 people can play this game at a time. So know that that is at that back table. And then anything that could also be done at home will be also working on these 2 tables. These 2 tables, you can be working on paper activities, you can be working on digital activities. Either one of those is fine. So the first one is the nuclear fusion game. Again, make sure you watch the instructions. That'll tell you how to use this game board. It also has some reflection questions. All of the reflection questions in this packet are there to help you answer the formative questions as well as have that information written down somewhere for the summative. The main goal of this is to look at that role of nuclear fusion and mass and how that will impact gravity. And how that makes a star progress. So you're actually working through the process of nuclear fusion by how you roll in the game. So you're racing another person to try to build oxygen before your opponent. The instructions will give you a better idea on that. The next activity, that matching game, this one just has the vocab terms and definitions written on something similar to a flashcard. You're trying to match those up and put those in order. So you'll be working with your partner on that. There is a question in the game, like if you have your instructor check your work that you've done, know that there are some questions your instructor may ask you about that. This one, the graphic organizer, is really about going through your notes to make sure you have all of these pieces in your graphic organizer. So you would want to be able to mark or highlight these ideas on your notes. This one's probably going to be the fastest, so if you're looking for something to do quickly because you're running out of time, this one's probably a good one for you. So on this one, you're just going to find those things. If you don't have something in here that you cannot mark, I would then refer you to go to this flip video. So the flip video is literally the video we make in case someone misses large group. And so if you are missing stuff on that graphic organizer scavenger hunt, I would have you go back to the flip video. So the graphic organizer is really a good idea just to double check to make sure your notes are good. I would save this one for last. So that'll tell you if you have your poop in a group. Then there's also Khan Academy. One thing to keep in mind is it will talk about the life of stars. I'm the first one to tell you I hate that phrase. Stars are not alive. So to say that they have a life drives me crazy. Any biology teacher would probably tell you the same thing. However, that's a pervasive kind of historical way of talking about stars, and so it will be in there. Just know that I do not agree, and I will crab at any time someone talks about it. So there's that. They do have a quiz that will help you get a feel for if you understand things. And you can either watch the videos or read the articles, depend on what floats your boat. But then again, you'll take a self-quiz on Formative to double check your knowledge. So notice how a lot of these end with that self-quiz. That's to practice this vocabulary. Make sure that you're understanding what is happening, and hopefully your scores improve as you go, and you can retake those quizzes on Formative. The HR diagram practice, you're going to make a copy of that Google slide deck, and then you will work through the activities on each slide. This one really has you practice with that HR diagram. I will tell you that on the unit summative, the HR diagram plays a big role. So you're going to want to be super confident with the idea of that HR diagram and how we use that in astronomy. So highly encourage this activity as one of your 5. Again, we already talked about the flip video. The last 2 pages are an analogy. You can either write or draw an analogy depending on what floats your boat. And an analogy is really that way to double check your knowledge to see if you can change it to a like or an as. Now, notice it says original analogy. We will not accept the human life stages because this one is all over the internet, and we will not accept a kitchen analogy because we will also use that one in large group, and it's in the flip video. So you cannot use either one of those 2. I've seen things from over the course of the years, everything from soccer games and art projects to fashion and you name it, skateboarding, any kind of sport, you name it, I've seen it. So pick something that you love. Maybe it's a hobby you have, maybe it's a thing you do. Pick something that you love. And what this is intended to do is everyone has that moment in an exam where you go, oh, dang it, I forgot. I can't bring that information forward. I don't know where to find it. You have that moment of panic. The reason why we're doing this analogy is to help you through that moment of panic. Because if you can remember your analogy, because it's something that you love to do, it's something that you enjoy doing, you take away those negative brain hormones and you replace them with positive brain hormones, and you'll be like, oh yeah, it's like this in my analogy. And then you can tie it back to the content. Those positive brain hormones will allow you to pull that information forward, and you'll do better on a summative exam. So if you're a writer, use this space. If you're a drawer, use this space. So maybe you're neither. Maybe you don't like to write, maybe you don't like to draw. Find pictures on the internet that will help you, and then pop those into this document. whatever floats your boat. The point is you're coming up with an analogy. So again, we will use the kitchen. Nebula is like walking into the kitchen and having all your tools and ingredients all over the place and not having decided what you're going to make yet. A protostar is when I decide what I'm going to make and I pull all those pieces to the countertop and I'm ready to begin cooking or baking. And so again, each phase I'm identifying with that particular analogy of the kitchen, and each time I have described why it's like that. So a protostar starts to bring that matter and mass together, and so therefore I can put it together. Do not use this as a practice space. Well, you could, but you're not going to get credit for that because it's not going to help you, I don't think, in that summative. Rote memorization, I don't think, is a very good tool for us to use as human beings. It's only going to put it in our short-term memory. We're not going to remember. And plus, you have your notes everywhere else, so you don't need to rewrite here. But if you tie it to that other activity, that's what will count here. So don't use it to just rewrite your notes. This is not the space for that. Okay, so everything then will go back to, except for these analogy pieces. Your instructor does have to check this space, but everything else will have a self-quiz listed on Formative with the same title. All of the self-quizzes on Formative will be in the format, it'll say like check mark, self-check, and then it will have the title of like Khan Academy or Nuclear Fusion Game. And so you're looking for these items. Again, your instructor's only going to use those self-checks and that analogy. We'll document as we go. You choose your score. Okay, you choose your score based on how many of these you have done. And we will have work days planned, so check the syllabus to see how many work days you have. We have you paced at about one activity per day before we take a summative over this activity. And then your summative will be just based on stars so far. All right, warriors.